Yes, us people are just poems. We're 90% metaphor with a leanness of meaning approaching hyperdistillation. And once upon a time we were moonshine, rushing down the throat of a giraffe. Yes, rushing down the long hallway despite what the PA announcement says. Yes, rushing down the long hall, down the long stairs in a building so tall that it will always be there. It's part of a pair. There on the bow of Noah's Ark, the most prestigious people just kicking back parked against a perfectly blue sky on a morning beatific in its Indian summer breeze on the day that America fell to its knees after strutting around for a century without saying thank you or please. And the shock was subsonic and the smoke was deafening between the setup and the punchline because we were all on time for work that day. We all boarded that plane for to fly. And then while fires were raging, we all climbed up the windows on the windowsill. We all held hands and jumped into the sky. And every burro looked up when it heard the first blast, and then every dumb action movie was summarily surpassed. And the exodus uptown by foot and motor car looked more like war than anything I've seen so far. So far. So far. So fierce and ingenious. A poetic specter so far gone that every jackass newscaster was struck dumb and stumbling over, oh my god, and this is unbelievable, and on and on and on. And I'll tell you what, while you're at it, you can keep the Pentagon, keep the propaganda, keep each and every TV that's been trying to convince me to participate in some prep school punk's plan to perpetuate retribution. Perpetuate retribution. Even as the blue toxic smoke of our lesson in retribution is still hanging in the air. And there's ash on our shoes, and there's ash in our hair. There's a fine silt on every mantle from Hell's Kitchen to Brooklyn. And the streets are full of stories, sudden twists and near misses. And soon every open bar is crammed to the rafters with tales of narrowly averted disasters, and the whiskey's flowing like never before, as all over the country folks just shake their heads and pour. So here's a toast to the folks that live in Palestine, Afghanistan, Iraq, El Salvador. Here's a toast to the folks living on the Pine Ridge Reservation, under the stone-cold gaze of Mount Rushmore. Here's a toast to all those nurses and doctors who daily provide women with choice, who stand down a threat the size of Oklahoma City just to listen to a young woman's voice. Here's a toast to all the folks on death row right now awaiting the executioner's guillotine, who are shackled there with dread and can only escape into their heads to find peace in the form of a dream. Peace in the form of a dream. There's really no one like Ani DiFranco. Next November will be the 30-year anniversary of her debut eponymous album. And in those 30 years, she's dedicated her life to creating music that speaks to activism, advocacy, feminism, and everything that needs help. When Ani was 11, she started playing open mic nights with her guitar teacher and her father's friend in her hometown of Buffalo, New York. She was born to two working class immigrants. Her mother was from Canada and her father was from Italy. They met while they were in college. And when she was 15, as a sort of means to start pursuing her musical career in a more serious fashion, she emancipated herself from her parents and graduated high school early so she could move to New York City and attend the New School, where she would study poetry and creative writing. But in 1989, when she was 19, she started her own record label, Righteous Babe Records, and officially moved herself to New York City. Over the next decade, she would release 15 records, a couple live albums, and really solidify herself as a voice in the folk music scene. In this book in particular, she also intertwines some of her written poetry, which is a really nice treat. Her work and her life has always been in service of political activism. She's been a huge advocate for women's reproductive rights, for environmental issues, LGBTQ rights, a voice against racism, and a voice for political disillusionment. Because I think a lot of us are feeling that way, especially in this current era of politics. I really think that No Walls in the Recurring Dream is kind of the perfect book for anyone who understands what it's like to feel marginalized. In her memoir, Ani speaks mostly to the issues of women and immigrants because that's what she knows. But I think a lot of the emotions and reactions and situations that she presents in her memoir are universal to anyone who's kind of been through the struggle. Uh, it's also a really great book for people who are interested in female singer songwriters, people who have worked their way from the bottom and done everything totally independently, because that's exactly what she did. As far as other titles go, I have to recommend Bossypants by Tina Fey. It's really nothing like No Walls in the Recurring Dream, aside from the fact that Tina Fey too understands what it's like to be a woman on the rise in the entertainment industry. Um, it's hilarious. It's everything you would expect in a memoir from Tina Fey. And if you're a fan of Mean Girls or 30 Rock, you have to read it. The other recommendation I'd make is actually one that isn't published yet. It will be published in a few weeks. It's called A Dream About Lightning Bugs, a life of music and cheap lessons by Ben Folds. Ben Folds is another really influential musical artist who started his career in the 90s, and is continuing his career to this day. He's funny and he's weird, and he just has such a unique perspective on the industry. Um, and again, anybody who's interested in reading a memoir about a musician should definitely look into this book, because even though I haven't read it yet, obviously, I can pretty much guarantee that you will be satisfied. Oh, and for Bossy Pants, I definitely recommend the audiobook. People have often asked me about my songwriting process, and all I can say is this: it takes many forms, intentionally so. I don't ever want to write the same song twice, so I try taking different routes to the finish line. Experimentation leads to unpredictable results and is not the path to surefire success, but is a path to discovery, and discovery is way more fun. I've always felt the predictable perfections of pop music to be numbing. They feel more like anti art than art to me. Those songs that cashiers sing along with on the radio. Does that make me a snob? Anyway, I think my songs tend to connect with other people who also enjoy encounters with the unexpected. Songs can come through in something like a moment of alignment, and, at those times, there's very little need for a lot of earthly intentions steering the process. Mostly, my songs seem to come to me while I'm in an altered state, and the very best part is waking up from the trance to a feeling of profound satisfaction. I wake up to the fact that I have transformed my pain into something more beautiful and useful than it was in its original state. I wake up to a vindicating calm because I've allowed something to leave my body and be reborn in the world as something better. And not only that, now I have something to offer the world, a contribution. Songs like that come of their own volition, often have a vitality that serves to carry them along through the world. They are born with their purpose, like some people are. But not all songs are like that. No, not even close. Other songs can be more elusive in their purposes, or flat out refuse to sign up for purpose at all. Or they may veer off from my best intentions and invent some tragic purpose all their own. Some take a lot of wrestling to even find a place where they can exist. Some are epic and require sustained dedication and concentration. Those ones will challenge your stamina and leave you equally drained as satisfied. It's true what the songwriters say: songs really are like children.